And then this one too, bill banning geoengineering and weather modification passes the Florida Senate. It's good news. It's good news even though, as I mentioned before, here in Tennessee, it hasn't changed anything. You can still, on a sunny day or what used to be a sunny day, look up and see them spraying. They're still doing it. It's not stopped anything, even though we have these laws here. But it is a good way to at least bring attention to this whole issue. Florida's Senate passed a bill prohibiting geoengineering and weather modification by a vote of 28-9. So the 9 people who voted no just either didn't want to be called conspiracy theorists or they really love to have their weather controlled. I'm not sure which. Anyway, SB 56, dubbed the chemtrails bill by the media, prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion by any means of a chemical compound, a substance, or an apparatus into the atmosphere within the borders of this state for the express purposes of affecting temperature, the weather, the climate, or the intensity of sunlight, which it affects all of those things, as we well know. This bill also requires the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to set up a system where residents can report suspected geoengineering activities and directs the FDEP to investigate those claims. Yeah, they're going to look into it. They're just going to look up and get their binoculars and write it down. Now, what they need is a whole fleet of planes with missiles attached to them. No, I digress. But no, I mean, there's no teeth in this. That's the whole problem here, is that they're going to make some report on it, I guess. So, time to be ringing those phones off the hook. Of course, there probably won't be a phone number. It'll just be either a email or a texting situation where you can text a number, maybe. I don't know. And it's talking about these other states that have similar bills in process. It says if a bill passes, Florida would become the second state in the nation to ban geoengineering. Tennessee passed its own bill. Yes, we are the lone conspiracy theorists out there right now, but other states are trying to join, banning geoengineering and weather mod in 2024. And then these are the other states that are working on it as well: Kentucky, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Arizona, Iowa, Mississippi, North Dakota, South Carolina, Utah, Wyoming, Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, Montana, New Jersey, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, Missouri, and Maine have introduced similar legislation in 2024 or 5 and are pending further action. So we'll see where it gets to, how far it goes. But the whole point here is that at least it's drawing attention to this issue. Whether it passes or not probably doesn't really matter all that much, honestly, because it hasn't stopped anything in Tennessee, and nor did it, most people that I know didn't expect that it would. However, there you go. At least it's drawing attention to it. So I think that's good news. So further information here on the Liberty Beacon. And then this is a post that I found on X. Conspiracy no more. I do like that. Conspiracy no more. And talking about RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan. HHS is putting together a team to investigate chemtrails. I wish they would use the geoengineering term, because that really is what it is. She says that the Overton window has been blown wide open on the geoengineering of weather, and that this is the beginning of the global conversation on this topic as people come forward with more evidence. Gates Foundation, the WEF, have both been involved in pushing for this, but they have called anyone who wants to know exactly what they are doing a conspiracy theorist, just as they did with the COVID vaccines. Why? Well, we know why, don't we? It appears that the Overton window has been blown wide open on this issue of geoengineering atmospheric weather modification, and I do know that the HHS is in the process of putting together a team to investigate this. We do know that cloud seeding does exist. We do know that counties throughout the U.S. have active contracts with private companies to cloud seed and thus bring greater moisture to arid lands. Yes, but that's not what we're talking about here, is it? Not the little planes with the flares on the wings. No, it's the military tankers that we're worried about here. So anyway, there's quite a bit actually here on this Nicole Shanahan post that was reposted, I guess, by Green Lives Matter on X. So yeah, and then DeSantis, I guess, is talking about banning geoengineering in Florida. So Even the governor knows a little about that. So that's pretty good news.
We're going to get the chemtrails out, the chemicals out of the chemtrails.
I'm the first person to ever see the cloud with the intention to cause it to do military damage.
The Army's need to know more and more about weather that surrounds this planet is a vital part of the expanded research program of atomic weapons. We all talk about the weather. The Army is doing something about the weather.
We physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War.
But there weren't any real clouds around. This was the end of the monsoon season, but there were a number of these small clouds that barely reached the freezing level, and by putting a small amount of silver iodide in there, we got them to collect and start to build. My main contribution at Corona was to write a plan for weather modification control for the whole world at any given time. We could send a number of airplanes with the materials and dispensing equipment we had, and probably control the weather all the way around the world. We were the first ones to fly into hurricanes for the purpose of modifying them, if you will. That was Project Storm Fury. I began to be extremely confident that we could do about what we wanted to with a hurricane. The Project Storm Fury had been going on since 1961, and they had already done two experiments, one in 61 and 63. Well, by 1964, when I was there in 1964, I wrote the plan and started to have a track and a mission for every flight that was on the hurricane cloud seeding experiments. So we had documentation for everything.
The climate engineering transmissions are 10 times more powerful than the frequency transmissions for communications. So all of this is a part of the problem, and manipulating wind flows as well. And that's key. We see it happening right now with the severe weather outbreaks happening in the U.S. as manipulated flows of moisture are being migrated in from the western U.S., chemically nucleated, creates a cold, dense layer of air on the surface. As they push that eastward and it collides with manipulated moisture from the record warm Gulf, and those two air masses collide, you get severe weather, which creates unstable atmospheric conditions, which creates cyclonic rotations. The cyclonic rotations that are being spawned right now are from conditions that are directly connected to climate engineering. That doesn't mean a specific cyclone in a specific location, but it means the overall region that has been set up for a spawning ground for tornadoes. And that's inarguable. We can argue the motives and the agendas, but the fact that climate engineering is manipulating conditions that are spawning these conditions is inarguable.
Fourth generation farmer, and they are finding in the land that we've had for so long in a 100-year-old farm, things that they have no idea or reason why things should be in the soil. I'm talking bacteria, I'm talking different acids, pH levels, but it's all come from what falls out of the air.
1998, which was the warmest year ever recorded up to that point in time. That's when they coined the term climate change instead of global warming, because they knew they'd be causing these flash chemical cool downs. The vapor pressure deficit is the respiratory pores on crops, trees. They shut when conditions are as we've just described. So they don't uptake carbon, they don't release oxygen. We don't have anybody in the environmental community discussing this and the effect from climate engineering. So again, hypocrisy from the environmentalist community, leaving out all these pieces of the puzzle.
Ben, why hasn't there been a lawsuit against the government for not stopping these hurricanes?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I really don't understand why, because the government certainly has reneged on its responsibility to the citizens of the country to protect them.
There's no hiding from this issue. I want to state that. You cannot put this issue in the rearview mirror like you can so many other issues, and people choose to ignore it if they can. Can't ignore this. This is pounding the nails into our collective coffins by the day.
Yeah, so Mr. Dane was on with Alex this week, and he did a tremendous job as usual, and just wanted to play a few clips of that, and wanted to mention that you guys should visit GeoWatch. We'll look at that a little closer in a little bit when we get there. I've got a couple things. This is show and tell. I've got a couple things I want to show you guys. All right, and then the hidden war above, chemtrails, HARP, and the battle for planetary control. This one actually is an article mentioning Ilana Freeland. She does good work as well. So anyway, that is some of the natural news headlines. Always good stuff. And then this, if you guys missed it, is certainly worth watching. This is Mike Adams' report here with Dr. Jane Ruby, talking about some of the things she has collected on her, the plastic covering her garden, and they've analyzed it under a super microscope kind of thing, and you'll see one of the things that they found. Look at the structure this has here. It's got straight lines in it. I mean, that is not nature. That is not nature. So anyway, this says Brighteon Broadcast News, April 4th, Kill Zone. Shocking new lab test reveals chemtrails are weaponizing the air with toxic metals, which we already know. But yeah, it's pretty amazing some of the stuff that they found just in this more or less cursory, off-the-cuff sort of analysis, where he's literally looking at it for the first time under the microscope while he and her are talking in an interview sort of situation. So yeah, it's certainly worth checking out. This particular video isn't the one that I saw. This one's over 2 hours, so maybe a little too long for some people, but the one that I saw was from a few days ago, and it was only 20 minutes or something. So it's certainly palatable from that standpoint. And then Wine Press News, they had several articles here about geoengineering. I just wanted to mention U.S. scientists shoot salt crystals into the atmosphere to block sun's rays to fight climate change, but did not tell the public. I thought that was very strange. Biden White House releases dossier to block the sun with solar radiation modification. There's another article here. And European Union introduces new proposals to block out the sun via solar radiation modification. Usually it's called solar radiation management, SRM, to reduce emissions by 2030, I guess. All right, let's look at GeoWatch. So here is the article for this week, and the article in the Global Alert News is called Engineering Biblical Floods. If you guys had a lot of flooding where you are, I have certainly had a bunch of rain in this area, and luckily we didn't get flooded this time. We got flooded years ago, but yeah, this time I think we got, 6 or 8 inches of rain, something like that, which is a lot for this area all at once over 3 or 4 days. In 2010, the Nashville flood, which is where I am, the Nashville flood happened. We got about 21 inches of rain over a 2.5 day period. So you could imagine why everything was being washed away in 2010. And at that time, now this was before, keep in mind, this was before I was aware of geoengineering and weather warfare and all that. I didn't know anything about it. I won't say that it woke me up to it, but it certainly made me realize something odd was going on, because the strange thing was that they were calling it at that time a once in a 1,000-year flood. Once in a 1,000-year flood. And, well, guess what? They're at it again. Thunderstorms trigger catastrophic flooding across the middle of the U.S. Tornadoes forming Saturday marked the 10th day in a row with tornadoes somewhere in the country. 1 in 1,000-year flash flood warning for the Midwest and the U.S. South. That's where I am. And yeah, they were calling it a once in 1,000-year flood, but they forgot they used the same verbiage 14 years ago. 14 years ago. So figure that one out. This next section here says, the report continues, millions of people have been evacuated as torrential rains overwhelm cities and infrastructure. Emergency services are working to rescue those trapped by rising waters. With widespread damage reported, the unusual intensity of the floods has left many regions facing unprecedented challenges. And from WRAL News, they say weather whiplash takes us from 90 degrees to the 30s. climate engineering and climate chaos are inseparable. What will it take before populations will wake up, look up, and stand up to what's taking place in our skies? So yeah, that is the weekly installment Global Alert News. And again, let me do a quick refresh. I happen to know, because I work with Mr. Dane, that we posted another post on here that is kind of a sister piece to that, for people who don't have or don't want to spend 55 minutes listening to the broadcast. This week we did a 90-second alert. So you got 90 seconds. If you don't have 90 seconds, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, engineering biblical floods, 90-second alert. A once-in-1,000-year flash flood warning for Midwest and U.S. South, which is what I was just saying. That's what they called the flood in 2010 around here, the once-in-1,000-year flood. Well, just happens to be that they actually mean once in 15 years, because that's where we're at. Anyways, yeah. So a short video on here, as well as the longer version of the video on geoengineeringwatch.org. And here are the show and tell items I brought. So you too can have a flyer, a glossy flyer, these front and backs, and then these, let's see here, business cards that have geoengineeringwatch.org information right on them. And we've got some scannable ones too. I don't have that in front of me here, but that have a QR code that takes you to the Deming. And those are all available over here on the Geoengineering Watch website. So if you scroll down just a little bit, over here on the left, you'll see Geoengineering Watch t-shirts, cards, and bumper stickers. And then they also have the flyers. So if you click into any of these here, you can order flyers, booklets, any of that stuff to give out. They even have t-shirts and stickers, things like that, bumper stickers and so forth. So the money goes directly to Mr. Dane. It covers the cost of printing and shipping, and he does them either at cost or below cost, which means he's losing money on them. But that is something that is available should you guys want to raise awareness of what's going on in our skies, and then also promote geoengineeringwatch.org as a source for that information. Note, there is no advertising on the website. There never has been. And it is a non-political website, and Dane always points that out on his broadcasts. No advertising, so you can't say that he's driving traffic to the site for clickbait, so that people will go there and click into it, and then the site earns money. That's not how it works. You get nothing except information on this site, and it's non-monetized, including his videos on YouTube. They have demonetized his YouTube channel as well. They did that last year sometime. So there is no money to be made on going to the website. It's only strictly informational. So just note that. And if you point people to it, you can feel good about the fact that the information there is solid. And I personally have been involved in working with Mr. Dane on geoengineeringwatch.org since 2014, when I first became aware of what was going on in our skies, and began to become informed about what's going on. And I found out about that through a friend of mine who told me to watch What in the World Are They Spraying? And Why in the World Are They Spraying? And I watched those films, and I remember thinking, okay, that makes sense that they're spraying aluminum and that they're doing those things. But it really wasn't until a few months later when I watched a film called Food Inc., Food I-N-C, Food Inc., where I learned in that film that there were seeds that were being developed at that time that were aluminum-resistant seeds. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they're developing through a process, if they're developing aluminum-resistant seeds, that means they have to resist the aluminum from something, and the only place they would have aluminum would be in the soil, and how does the aluminum get there? So that sort of starts a cycle of thinking of, okay, well, then it's being sprayed from the skies, because aluminum, although it is in nature it's has to be mined and refined to be in the volume that it is in the soils. And so therefore you need an aluminum resistant seed to even be able to grow. So that was the kind of thing that really got my wheels turning and realizing that it was real, that the whole geoengineering thing was real. And so that is when I reached out to Mr. Dane years ago and contacted him and asked him if there was anything I could do to help. And that is, that's where we're at. That's why I'm still working with him now. So anyway, that is a short little sidebar there, I guess. But yeah, note that this information here is available, and it can be gotten pretty cheaply and given out to people, and all you're doing is covering the cost of printing and having them shipped to you, so you can do that. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know about all that. And Dane did not ask me to say any of this stuff. I'm just bringing it to your attention, so that's all. All right, and then let's see, the engineered weather report for this coming, well, at least the temperatures for this coming next few days, April 12th through the 16th. It's looking like that. It's kind of the hot and cold split, more or less. Eastern side being cooled, and the west, extreme western Midwest, and most of the west actually is above normal. And then you have a little bit of below normal as well. So that's the temps. So we got mostly cool and then a little bit of warmth as well. So depending on where you are, look for that in the next few days, April 12th through the 16th, and we will see what happens. Yeah, worthwhile cause to spread the word on geoengineering, Susan says. Yep, I agree. So yeah, and Dane does really good work, and he's I mean, I can't really say enough about the guy. I mean, he lives and breathes this stuff, and he's exactly like you would think he is, and he gives it his all. I mean, when he sends me the show to do the final edit on, I do that on Fridays. He sends me that show. I always look to see about what time of night he sent me the file, and it's always like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning my time, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's 2 hours earlier out there. So he is literally doing this until he drops. He really is. So don't think for a second he's getting rich off of this or any of that kind of stuff. He's just making enough money to cover his cost. He's trying to, and that's only on the donations and the money that people pay to get flyers done and T-shirts and stuff like that. So yeah, he's giving it everything he has. So know that he's doing his part for sure. So, and I'm trying to, and I hope you guys are as well. Not just about geoengineering, but in general, there's so much to learn, so much out there that it's impossible to learn it all, to know it all, but it's certainly worth studying. And geoengineering is just one of those things that affects all of us. So, why not give it everything you have? Emily says, Vegas has been experiencing massive weather whiplash in the last few weeks. Super cold and snow drifts to 90 degrees. It's ridiculous, really. Yeah, that is, I'm hearing similar things from California as well. Dane's told me that they've gone from 80s and sun to snow the next day kind of thing. And we mentioned last week, I think it was, where they had 80 degrees in New York City, and then in Boston, which is 180 something miles away, they had snow flurries. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing is really kind of coming undone, as it were, coming off the rails. So I don't know where it's all headed, but we know according to Scripture that the oceans, a third of the oceans will die, and that you could point back to geoengineering for that, and other things that are going on, obviously pollution and other things, and you got Fukushima is still happening, and whatever else that affects the oceans and all life, really. So it's pretty amazing where we're at in this whole process, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better, no matter what we all try and do.